Hello everyone, we are back in the shop for another update on the NSX. NSX is pretty much there and almost finished. When we left off, we were on our way to WeekFest trying to scramble to get it running. I think I slept at 5 a.m. the day of roll-in, but did manage to get it running. However, we ran into a couple of snags, which meant that I wasn't able to drive it there. Drove it into the building, but I wasn't able to drive it to the convention center like I'd hoped. The throttle body, the TPS was clocked incorrectly. The throttle shaft was, so I had to send it back to get repaired, but they took care of that, which is great. I mean, they pretty quick and very simple fix, runs well now. Another issue I had was because the turbo is low mounted, the oil would drain into the turbo when the car was off, and then the scavenge pump obviously wasn't on because there was no power to it. And the feed line, being a couple feet long, would drain into the turbo, and then the next time you'd start it up, you would get a pool of oil in the exhaust. So I would look in the exhaust, and like literally there was just a ton of oil that you could see just right in there, which is obviously not a good thing. So I had to figure out what the problem was with that, determined it to be the feed line, and then added a one-way valve that activates only when you have about 5 psi. So you can kind of see it right there. This guy right here. Really simple valve that just stops the oil. So now that the car is off, for example, the oil from the feed line to about here does not flow until the car is restarted. And because this is high enough, it doesn't go into the turbo, and it's short enough that it's not a big deal. So those were the two issues. They're both solved now. Pretty easy fixes for both. Then the intercooler is plumbed. So the lines go back to a little bulkhead bracket that I made and added some 12-AN bulkhead fittings, so that way if I need to pull the engine, just take these two off, slide them out of the way, pull the fuel pump out of, or the scavenge pump right here out of the way, and the subframe also comes out to make it really easy. It's like basically 3 bolts, and what was once essentially a 6-hour process is probably going to be about an hour to get the engine out, which is exactly what I wanted when relocating the engine. So I think like probably an hour and a half, I'll be able to get the engine out. The like Rye-wire quick disconnect makes it super easy with the mil-spec connector, and then everything else is basically just a bunch of AN hoses. Pull the manifold out of the way, and then everything just drops right out. So one of the biggest things, which was the serviceability of the car, has been vastly improved. Now that everything is running, the only thing left to do is retune the car. So I'm gonna go see Kristian over at SP Engineering Study Tuned, if you follow him on Instagram. And he did the tune on this car. He's gonna retune it for me with the new manifold. Just because the turbo's relocated, the manifold's completely different. It probably flows a little different. When I just test drove it a little earlier, I noticed I was like leaning out when I would tip into the throttle. So clear that out, fix a couple of other little things in the tune. I know he wanted to spend a bit more time on it. We rushed it for Super Lap, and then the car has basically been down since then. Couple of other little things need to happen to the interior just for like GTA legality that they asked me to do. So there's like a panel that goes back in here that I'm going to modify and get that rolling. And other than that, the front arrow, I'm gonna be making some changes to. I had a regular like just flat splitter, just like this right here. So this was the splitter to the car before, pretty standard. Works, very simple, but not what I need at the kind of the level that street class is right now. So I'm gonna add some front diffusers, so some tunnels. Designed these, RS Feature front splitter diffusers. Kind of had this design and had them actually on the M3, but finally put them into a mold, and they've been ready for a few months now, just kind of getting everything ready. I wanted to test them first. So set for my car, I think there's a set going on Will's ISF, and then the LSM3, and also working on these are, let's see here, some front splitter end plates. So those are going to be on this and the M3 as well, just getting those finished up. Yeah, so front arrow stuff, and then gonna create a vent to get there's already a duct, which you can kind of see over there, right there, that the little carbon duct that I made to seal all of the airflow into it. So I'll make a vent to get it all out of the hood, basically control all of the airflow that goes to the front of the car, inside and out, control the splitter, block off all of the front panels on the splitter have been, or the bumper have been blocked off. So I made some like carbon deletes there. So the only air that goes in is through this bumper area here, and it's all controlled. It has to go through the. This is the coil radiator. This is their upgraded NSX one that they made for like force induction applications, and then this is their heat exchanger for the water to air intercooler. Sorry, it's upside down. Other than that, I think pretty much good. So next step is to go to SP and get it tuned. So next probably vlog episode will be over there, film it, hopefully everything goes according to plan. The 911 is finally going to, I know I keep saying it's going to stop being ignored, but it's actually going to stop being ignored next week. And then the M3, when we last left off, it didn't have pretty much anything in it. So now the dash, the cluster, the wiring for the taillights, everything's kind of like basically in there. It has a windshield. And the last thing that it really needed was the steering rack, which I've also replaced. So I need to make one more adjustment to the steering rack or steering column bracket. I made one for it that I want to redesign, and then that car's pretty much ready to go. It just needs an oil change. So solid progress in the shop. Also added that pallet rack, which is convenient, makes storage really easy. But hopefully have everything ready for Vtec Club next weekend. That's the goal. Go out there and kind of have the first shakedown as we prepare for Super Lap Battle in November. Everything has pretty much gone according to plan. Hoping it continues to go that way. So if you're at Vtec Club, we'll see you there.